Okay, so you got to be okay with that. The other thing is you got to be okay with wearing the uniform. If you for some reason have bad vibes about the government, what we as America are doing, all that stuff, you're going to say pledge allegiance to the flag. You're going to be a government employee. You're going to be working for the government, and the president is your boss. So you're going to be, you know, held accountable to being somewhat patriotic. And so you need not have a problem with being patriotic. The other thing is you got to be able to move around. You got to be able to relocate and not have a trouble. I know people, friends, I know students that don't want to ever leave Pickens County. If you're that kind of person, you do not need to do this. So those are my three. You got anything to add to that?
No,
is that bad? Or?
No, those are spot on. You know, if you somebody asked about assignment choice earlier. You have to be realistic in your assignment choice as well. You know, we get a lot of people processing down in Columbia that they only want to go to Fort Jackson. Okay, that is not a realistic place to go. It's too small. We don't have a lot of positions there. So when you're looking at positions, the bigger facilities have a lot more positions. So you got to kind of be realistic. I mean, if you wanted to go to Brooke Army Medical Center, that's fairly easy to do. If you wanted to go to Washington State, up at that one, Madigan Army Medical Center, you can get into those. Landstuhl in Germany, great place to go.
If you think you're going to go to Hawaii, you're going to go to Japan,
Hawaii,
you're going to get to say where you're going to be able to sip your pina colada and all that stuff. It ain't going to happen.
Here's how all that stuff plays in together, though. When you make that first choice coming out of your residency program, you'll be given 3 choices for your active duty assignment. Okay? If you're realistic about the 3 that you pick, and you've already been working with your medical corps consultant, saying, okay, this is the reason why I want to go here, and he's going to say, well, I really need you to go here, and then you guys work that out individually. You cannot let somebody else do everything for you, because then you are at their whim. Okay? So you need to be the manager of your own career. I have only been to one place that I chose not to go to, and that was my first duty station. And actually, it was Fort Campbell, which turned out great. It was on my list, but it was down about number 7. So every other one, I've coordinated with my branch manager to get the position that I was going to and work it out that way. And that doesn't work with everybody, but that's been my experience. You're going to stay in a place typically around 3 years. Okay? If you owe 4, then here's how you work that piece. When they start throwing those carrots at you, if you want to stay in along with that money, then you tell them where you want to go. It's all how that works. You know, they need you to stay in. You need to get what you need to get out of the Army. The Army is always going to get what it needs out of you. Okay, that's just the way the whole thing works. So you take every advantage of everything that the Army will give you.
And then the other thing, don't ever volunteer for anything. You've heard that, and that's true. But the other thing, don't ever volunteer for anything in the Army. Anything in the military, don't volunteer for. But the other thing I didn't stress with you need to be able to follow orders is that you need to realize that this is a lifestyle. These guys are wearing the uniform tonight. You're going to have to wear a uniform. You're going to have, it's a military mindset. There is such a thing. And some people just do not like it. They do not feel like it fits them. They do not wear it well. So you need to know that it's a lifestyle. It really is. And in a way, you sometimes feel as though you're outside the culture in some places, in some ways. You know, you feel like you are sort of a, you know, there is this culture or this society out there, which is the normal society, and you're the people that are protecting that society. So you sometimes get the feeling that you're sort of outside and doing something special. It is very special, but you are separate from what is sort of considered to be the normal, you know, lifestyle. So you guys might object to that, or?
Well, I tell you, now is a great time to be in. I mean, I can't speak to what it was like in, you know, when those guys are coming back from Vietnam, but I constantly get people coming up, shaking my hand, saying thank you for your service. Sitting at Starbucks 2 weeks ago, I had a cup of coffee. Guy shakes my hand, hands me a gift card. So here, next one's on me. So right now, it's a great time. Now, I put on the uniform every day to go to work. and it fills me with pride to do so. But like I say, if you have issues with certain things, and it may not be for you, because if you're sometimes your opinion stops when you put the uniform on. Okay, so then you become the party line, whatever that is. It's like Roger out, we got it. As far as the taking orders side, you're always going to have somebody who outranks you, but when you go through the officer side, at least as soon as you come in, you already outrank probably 2/3 of the population of them. So you're going to be expected to be able to give orders as well as take them. So that's an important thing to realize, that you are going to be looked at as a leader in the military, and that's a responsibility that some people honestly can't take.
Exactly,
so,
that's true too.
So
yeah, that's true. You're going to be put in a position where you are responsible for making things happen, and if you're not comfortable doing that, boy, you're in a world of hurt.
And it comes with experience. When you're standing there and you've got some junior enlisted guys around you that are 18, 19 years old, and you've got those captain's bars on, they don't know that you've been in the Army one day. They have no idea. They see a captain. Captain normally has about 8 years of experience in the Army. So they're going to expect certain things of you that, you'll learn. It's a learning process. But it's,
and I usually end when I'm advising people that if you feel good with this, the things I mentioned and all, and you get this scholarship, it's like winning the lottery. So it is a very, very good thing for the right people. Please don't misunderstand. I'm trying to play the devil's advocate. I told them I was going to do this, so they were sort of ready for it. But I hopefully help you to get kind of an appreciation for, all the good, bad, and ugly. Mostly good. It's mostly good.
it is. Yes, sir.
I have some more questions. How would you describe work week? Would you say it's 40 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours for a physician?
I would say it's the same as a civilian physician, because what you're expected to do is you put this uniform on, you drive to the hospital, you work your shift. You're done with your shift, you drive home. That's your normal Monday through Friday. Now, with any job, there's different levels. Okay? As you become, if you're just a staff doc when you get there, then your schedule's pretty set. If you become the manager of that clinic, well, yeah, your hours are going to go up a little bit, but there's nothing really that dictates, I got to be there from 6 or 6 in the morning until 6 at night. Okay? A lot of it's your personal feeling of what you need to do to get your job done. Now, with a lot of units, you have scheduled PT or physical training. If you're in a hospital, typically you don't. It's expected that you're going to get that done on your own. Okay, so there's no formations that you have to go to or anything like that. So the work week, I would say, is just standard for what you would do in the civilian world.
I have a caveat to that as well. In the Army, your patient load is already there for you. In the civilian sector, you have to go out and you have to try to get patients to come in to keep your business open, to keep your practice open. So sometimes that's going to entail a little bit more work than what you typically have walking into an Army facility. When you go on vacation in the Army, you don't have to worry about the physician down the hall taking your patient load away from you while you're on vacation. In the Army, it's the same patient load. You always walk right in. Clinic's already established. Everything's the patient care is already established. You just walk in and you just go to work and you see patients.
And there's other opportunities for you as well. If you decide that, well, I want to take a break from patient care, now I want to take the command route. Okay? Command route is when you're in charge of those units, like the combat support hospital I mentioned earlier. If you have high enough rank, you've been in long enough, and you can compete for those types of positions where you're the guy leading the unit, guy or gal, whichever happens to be. So does that answer your question?
Yes. I also have a question. What figures into rank promotion and medical services other than time?
Pretty much time. It's time and how well you do your job. You get, it's called an officer evaluation report, an OER. They're done annually, or there's some other breakdowns if your boss's boss moves and you're doing an OER, then they have to do one. But typically it's one per year. That information, along with whatever courses you've taken, gets put on an officer record brief. All of that data goes before a board, and they determine, looking at that information, whether or not you're good enough to be promoted. I can tell you that selection rates are fantastic. up to lieutenant colonel, especially for positions. When I got selected for major 2 years ago, selection rate was 94%. So I'm better than 6% of the population. If you look at it that way, that's all you gotta. You gotta beat out 6%. If you don't have enough confidence in yourself to beat 6%, you're in the wrong business anyway.
Okay, what did you mean by courses taken?
Well, for instance, these little things I've got here, one's air assault school, one's the expert field medical badge. It's just different things to kind of branch out and do a little different things. In the medical field, you'd be allowed to do the expert field medical badge training and test. Air assault school is going to depend on what location you are. I went to Fort Campbell, it's home of the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, so I automatically went to air assault school. That one wasn't a choice. Good course. But, so those different things. If you take other military-related courses, for instance, what the Officer Basic Leadership course goes on that document. A few years later, you'll take the Officer Advanced course. It's typically done when you're a mid-career captain. So it's those types of schools, military schools.
Is that while you're on duty or while you're taking your vacation time that you can take the courses?
That's all active duty. If like for instance, with the air assault school, that was just my job for those 3 weeks. Instead of driving to the hospital, I drove to air assault school. So that's your sole function during those times.
Is residency an 8-hour work week?
No, I don't know what.
Depending what residency you go into. Your general family practice, emergency medicine, typically you're going to have an 8-hour shift. General surgery, obviously going to be different, because if you're on call, you're on call. They typically have hospital rooms for you to go into. Same with internal medicine. They try to keep it to an 8-hour shift. But again, you're a general resident, first year surgeon. You want to cut time. You want to get in there. So your shift might last a little longer. But typically the actual hours of your residency are a lot easier than what you get on the outside. They really focus a lot more on education, learning everything right, as opposed to completely just shoving all this enormous patient load on you at the same time.
Anybody else?
Okay,
Yeah.
to bring this back full circle.
Yeah.
We need to apply for this the year before we apply to medical school or vet school or any school, or after we get accepted to that school?
No, what we can do is it can run concurrently. So once you take the MCAT, that's really when we start.
Okay.
Or the physical is good for 2 years. So we can sit down for a physical pretty much as long as you're a junior. We can take care of that. But once you've taken that MCAT, that will determine the process.
Okay.
Because it's run fiscal years. So October 1 is the beginning of our fiscal year. So if you're looking right now, if you were looking at going to school next fall for medical school, then now is the time to apply. That's the first board you can do is the beginning of October.
Okay.
How often do you have the boards?
Boards are every month for HPSP. Some of the others are specific, like vet school actually might be the one time a year board in April. So those are a little bit different. But medical and dental is every month.
And your year goes from October 1st till
September 30th.
September 30th.
We just opened up our new year.
So we could go ahead and take the train or whatever, the physical in San Antonio, and
Yes.
leave it be. in
Yeah, as
y'all.
long as you're within 2 years, we can go ahead and put you into the system and get your physical done.
And then what do we do after the first year of vet school? Just call you and be like, hey.
Well, no, when you start vet school, that's when you would need to call us back and say, hey, this is, because there is an application process. It's not a ton of documents for you. We need to have the application done. The application itself is what takes a while. It's about 65 pages. But
I think.
about 65. It's more in depth for those of us with more experience, let's say, instead of age. If you've been in straight from high school to college, then it's not going to be that in depth, because a lot of what takes place on it's the jobs you've had over the last 7 years, where you've lived over the last 10 years. A lot of people, they haven't moved anywhere but from home to here, so that part's done. But for me, I've lived over the last 10 years. I've probably lived 4 or 5 places. So and then you got to have a person who knew you during that time frame, and it can't be the same person on every.